Almost 50 years ago to the day, an entire generation of moviegoers suddenly began to think twice about going in the water. That's because of the fictional New England beach town of Amity Island. Something sinister was stalking its prey and turning the ocean red.
1975 marked the arrival of Steven Spielberg's Jaws, which became the prototypical summer blockbuster film and helped redefine modern techniques for special effects, cinematography, and let's not forget that unforgettable score. Here to talk more about this motion picture milestone are Rob Rector and Rob Waters, the founder of the Revival House Theater. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Glad you're here.
Now, do you remember your first impression of Jaws? I know it's 50 years ago.
Yes.
First impression now.
I know for me it's my favorite film of all time, and the first time I saw it was with my parents at our beach house when I was maybe 9, and I knew a lot about like all the Jaws movies and like many people like that, which is like, oh, it's just where they, you know, lots of people just get eaten in the water. But what I didn't know, like the second half of the film, is just this really kind of wonderful like adventure film where they're essentially chasing after 3 dudes on a boat chasing after the shark.
Yeah.
And I just blew my mind when I was a kid.
And I saw it when it was first time on network television, NBC Sunday night movie, the big reveal of it, and years later I was still probably too young to have seen it.
Right.
But it left an indelible mark, and I have been obsessed not only with Jaws, but also the countless, you know, kind of industry, shark-related industry that it is affected. So.
Okay. Why? Why has it had this impact?
Okay. You want to go?
No, you start with this and I'll chime in.
So it is actually, it introduced a word to the lexicon. So we, Blockbuster actually began with the inception of Jaws.
Really?
Because it would play in very select theaters, and the line would be so long that it would wrap around the block, hence Blockbuster. So it was the first film to ever do that, and it kind of set the template for like the modern summer schedule that we have, like the movies, the big release movies.
And also the template for movies in general. Like you can see like all the future films like in this.
Yeah.
It's like
it has DNA sprinkled
oh
throughout
yeah,
that.
all your
Wait, no, wait. Explain how. I'm not a film guy like you guys are.
Sure.
And explain how. What do you mean sprinkled another?
Well, okay, so like you have your structure of like the first act is like all the adventure or scary things and all that, and then you have a part in like the 2/3 where all the main characters sit down and have like a kind of moment together where you get to know the characters, hence the Indianapolis speech. You know, where everyone kind of starts to understand who they are, and then the third act is just straightforward action, and they kind of all, a lot of them kind of go that way. Like look at Jurassic Park, same exact structure.
True.
And it really was, this whole film was kind of the result of an accident. Like the finished film is a result of an accident, really, because very famously, you know, it had the most diva-like behavior of a star, and that was Bruce the Shark, which failed to operate.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of, you know, recapitulate and kind of turn around and tried to be creative with the shots that he had, the remaining footage that he had. And I think it led to us having to rely on our imagination.
It's much scarier.
He kept that shark hidden, only with, like you said, with John Williams' score or with, you know, just little flourishes that would cause us fear. But then the big reveal of shark didn't come till later, so we were left in our own minds, which probably created something.
The barrels were not in the original film at all. That wasn't really in the original script. That wasn't supposed to be there. And as I mentioned before, like I teach a filmmaking class, and one of the things I teach them is things will always go wrong in your production. Something is going to go wrong.
He knows that well.
I do. Something always goes wrong. And instead of just taking your ball and going home, you have to figure it out on the spot. And that's what they did. And they ended up using the barrels to show where the shark was, because
without showing the shark.
Without showing the shark, because when they put it in salt water, they tested it all in freshwater like tanks, and they put it in the salt water, it wouldn't work at all.
Ate it up.
And they're running out of money and time.
Yeah, and that, to add to that, I think one of the big milestones, it won an Oscar for Best Editing. Verna Fields, and he referred to her as Mother Cutter. Steven Spielberg directed her as Mother Cutter, because the two of them, after they would shoot the dailies, they would go into a pool house, and each of them would put the films out and independently cut. And he said that she would always cut it with just 2 frames shy than what he did. He said that was the difference between making the shark look like something menacing or a big white floating turd.
And also they use real footage
Wow.
of sharks too.
Yeah.
Like in the cage where it's rolling around
Yep.
in the cage, like it's actually a real shark. They just did a smaller cage and had
smaller person.
inside.
Yep.
Which is hilarious watching with someone who hasn't seen it before, which I've done a few times. You're like, that shark looks kind of fake. I'm like, that's a real shark actually. Yeah.
Can you pick a favorite moment or character from the movie?
My favorite character is Quint. He's probably my favorite character of all time. Just Robert Shaw doing a really awesome, someone his own kind of New England accent, whatever it is. It's still, but just the charisma he has and how much he just antagonizes everyone on that boat and the Captain Ahab-ness of it.
Totally.
It's great.
I would say, and he was one of the ones who wrote that famous USS Indianapolis speech.
Right.
That one monologue that he has in there. He got the final draft and wrote that, and kind of, because he's a writer too. He's a famous writer. But I would say Chief Brody, Roy Scheider. Roy Scheider, I think, was one of those who just kind of went under the radar. I mean, he was known well, but still, he was a phenomenal actor, especially during that time. He had Sorcerer, which is a fantastic movie he was in. This one, though, he was such a well thought out character. Like the relationship he had with his children, the relationship he had with his wife. There was a verisimilitude, there was an authenticity they had that was just
Did you say verisimilitude?
I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, great word.
That's fine.
I'm going to be looking that one up later.
My favorite scene involves, and I've watched it so many times now, so it's not usually the shark or something like that. It's usually something small. For me, my favorite is a really small scene he has with his son at the dinner table where he's had the worst day. The mother of the child who dies slaps him and he's just drinking at the table. And he has this really cute scene where his son starts mimicking him at the table, and they have this like in the middle of a very big dark movie.
Right.
Is this thing? And it's a very Spielbergian type thing where it's like.
And then he asks him for a kiss on the cheek because he needs it.
Because he needs it.
That was
Because
good.
he needs it.
Yep. Yeah.
Rob Rector, Rob Waters, thank you very much. Want to say real quick though, there's 3 hours of Jaws, including a special introduction from Steven Spielberg on our sister station. It's going to be Friday at 8 o'clock. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your view of such an iconic movie.
Thanks for having
See
us.
you in the water.
Good.
Good sign off.
Maybe, maybe not.